Almost 6,000 people have now been helped out of Afghanistan in the British military evacuation plan. Thousands more are waiting at Kabul airport, pleading with soldiers to help them leave the country before the evacuation's deadline of August the 31st.
7 Afghans have died in the crowds outside the airport, with reports that as many as 20 have been killed trying to get to the airfield. One former defence chief says the evacuation is the worst possible scenario. Joining us now is Armed Forces Minister James Heappey. He's been on the show, of course, last week and again this morning because... good morning to you. What is your primary fear at this moment of the operation that our soldiers are carrying out on the ground, the 1,000 of them that are there? What is your fear at this present moment?
Well, my primary fear as the Minister for the Armed Forces is the very real threat that our soldiers face on the ground from Islamic State particularly. And, you know, as you'd imagine, therefore, we have to make sure that in all of what we're doing, we are giving them the best chance of defending themselves against the threat that exists. But as you'd also imagine, I'm trying to get as many people out of Kabul as I possibly can. So too is Ben Wallace, the Secretary of State, and everybody working here in the MOD. And we're working every single minute we can to make sure that we maximise the numbers that do come out. And if you'll allow, Ranvir, actually it's 6,631 who have been evacuated from Kabul over the last week. That's 1,821 over the last 24 hours. That was across 8 flights. We're hoping, well, we're not hoping, there will be another 9 RAF flights over the next 24 hours. And so we're hoping to maintain those sorts of flows over the next couple of days. And
are those flights able to be full? Because I think some of what's startling is that some of those flights, obviously the slots are limited and the flight has to leave. It can't hang around until the flight is full. But that, of course, then leads into, as we were hearing, I don't know if you heard the correspondent Jane, who was in the airport hotel there, where some of this processing is going on, that people are arriving, the interpreters, those people who have been given the nod to say you have a right to come to Britain with you and your family, they're finding it actually very difficult to even get through to that processing centre. And therefore, some of the flights are empty, which is not, of course, what any of us want. What are you able to do to help that process be quicker and smoother for those people?
So it's certainly not the case that flights are leaving empty, but it is the case that the flow of people through the evacuation handling centre is irregular over a 24-hour period. So some flights are leaving more full than others. There was a flight that left Kabul just before 6 a.m. UK time this morning that had 432 people on it. Now, that's way more people than should normally be on this aircraft, but we're operating in extraordinary circumstances. So the Chief of the Air Staff has issued a waiver to allow more people to be on those flights. We do have to understand 2 things. Firstly, that there are an awful lot of people trying to access not just the UK system, but also the US system. The Taliban, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Taliban are helping in that they have pushed their outer cordon further away from the Baron Hotel, and they're trying to separate those entering the US system from those entering the UK system. That has improved the flow, but as you rightly note, it means that there's a crowd sort of further away from us now trying to get through that Taliban marshalling point. But the checks that we're doing in the Baron Hotel are necessary. My colleagues in the Home Office tell me that there have been people trying to get onto flights this week who are on the UK's no-fly list, which means they pose a real threat to our national security. So we have to do these checks because there are people in this humanitarian situation that you see in front of you. There are also people that mean us harm who are trying to take advantage and get to the UK. And we have to be careful not to allow that to happen.
I mean, that detail that the Taliban are helping obviously stood out to us and is itself very interesting in this moment in time. You're there at the Ministry of Defence, James Heappey. I just wondered, we're aware that you have a very difficult job at the moment. Could you just tell us a bit about, take us inside the MOD at the moment, what it's like for you and for Ben Wallace and the other staff there? That minute by minute, hour by hour, are you getting calls at 3 a.m. about planes coming and going? Just tell us a bit about what it's actually like for you inside the Ministry of Defence during this crisis.
Well, look, Ben and I are not the important people in this. We are doing our best to make decisions at the pace that we can. Our colleagues from around Parliament, journalists, people in Afghanistan are emailing, Facebooking, direct messaging us all the time, making their case, and that clearly is very emotionally challenging because we're the front men, the Secretary of State particularly so. But actually, the people that are doing something that is quite incredible right now are the people in the bowels of this building that are working 24 hours a day, the people who are in permanent joint headquarters in Northwood, who are working every single second that they can to get everybody out. Yeah. And then even more importantly still, the amazing crews of the Royal Air Force planes that are flying backwards and forwards from Dubai to Kabul, and then those 1,100 soldiers that are on the front line outside the Baron Hotel. I spoke to you a second ago about the threat that they face. It means that they've got one hand on the trigger and they're holding people's babies with their other arm. That's just the most incredible thing for young 18 and 19-year-old men and women to have to do outside the Baron Hotel. And I'm so proud of Defence as an organisation for what we're doing right now. But as a minister, I'm also acutely aware that it will never be quite enough. And we're trying our best to do as much as we can, but we won't get everybody out.
And talking of those direct emotional appeals that you're having to deal with day and night from people who are stuck there, there was one on this programme actually directly to you earlier on. I'm not sure if you know the story of Pen Farthing, who is a former Royal Marines commando. He now runs an animal sanctuary there. He has 71 staff. He's had the OK. In fact, he did say that we should be praising of Boris Johnson this morning because he has now given him the green light for him and his 70 staff and all their families to come out. But he said this morning.
So we have actually privately chartered an aircraft into Kabul airport. Right now, I need to have an ISAF call sign. So if the MOD is listening to this, I need that ISAF call sign and I need it this morning.
Can you get that? And are you able to answer that, James?
I mean, not right now here, but it's in my notebook. I'll get Pen an answer as soon as I can thereafter. And if I may, he has energised the nation. I've had hundreds of emails from my constituents who feel very passionately about his charity. I'm delighted to hear that things are progressing. My colleague, the Aviation Minister, Rob Courts, I know has been working very hard on trying to come up with a solution for him. If the call sign is what remains to be done, then that sounds like something we can take away and hopefully get for him.
Oh, good, I hope so. And I'm pleased to see that he has energised your constituents as well, that his story is connected with people.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of emails. I think we are a nation of animal lovers.
We certainly are. Just a final word. There is a comment in the papers this morning from Charlie Herbert, who's a former commander of UK forces in Afghanistan. He says there's an increasing sense that the interpreters are being abandoned. I just want to know from you, of course, there is a will to try and get, I think there's 600 interpreters there that we've used and their families out. We have a limited time, if that extension isn't granted tomorrow at the G7 by the Americans, in which to get all those people out. What's on percentages? What's your sense that you can do it?
Well, I'm not going to give you a percentage because I just don't think I can. I know where Charlie's coming from. What I think he's concerned about is that in the last week since Kabul fell, there's been a lot of pressure here in the UK to evacuate people like the Nowzad charity, to bring out the Chevening scholars. So all sorts of people have also come into the scheme. And I think he's worried that that's to the detriment of the people who were the original focus of the evacuation plan, which was British nationals, eligible people, and those under the ARAP scheme, the resettlement scheme for those who have served alongside the British military and the government over the last 20 years. They remain our priority. We're trying to get out as many people as possible. I don't think we should apologise for seeking to be more generous, but in the MOD, we are very much prioritising those groups of people who were in the original scheme, and everybody else we get out beyond that is to be welcomed. We're trying to get as many people as we possibly can, but clearly time is against us.
Yes,
yeah, well, thank you for joining us. You know how busy you are, so thank you for taking the time to explain all this to us.
And of course, tomorrow we'll be talking about that meeting, as a virtual call between Boris Johnson and Biden to talk about whether they will extend that 31st of August deadline.
James Heappey, Armed Forces Minister, thank you very much indeed.